You thank you for your call, Lewis. Folks, we're streaming again, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. So join us if you can. Yesterday, I believe there were oral arguments in the Janus case, and here to talk to us about it is none other than the president of the American Federation of Teachers, Randy Weingarten. Randy, good morning to you. How are you?
Hey, Mark. I'm okay. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm okay. I guess under the circumstances. So, am I right? There were oral arguments on yesterday.
Yep. There was oral arguments yesterday, and the our our lawyers did an amazing job in oral arguments, and I'm very proud of them. And I actually sat through the argument.
Okay.
But the what was clear is that the court that we saw in Friedrichs, absent Justice Scalia, um, is just as negative, at least the ones who are active in that case, as they are right now, and the ones who were, positive in Friedrichs were very positive. And this is what I mean by this. There is a 45-year precedent that the Solicitor General of Illinois went through why we have the precedent, why states have decided when they want to, have decided that when you're dealing with collective bargaining, when you're dealing with employee relationships in the public sector, these 23 states have opted, like some have in the private sector, to do collective bargaining with people in unions if people want to be in unions, with the only proviso being that they have to exclusively represent everybody, and that if they do so, then everyone has to pay a fair share, just like people pay mandated bar fees or mandated student fees, so that so that the union can actually function. You don't have to join, but you have to pay that fee.
Yeah.
And so basically, the court, the plaintiffs here said, nope, that's wrong. It doesn't matter. It's not the same as a bar association fee or a student activity fee or any of the other mandated fees, because unions, essentially what they said was that unions shouldn't exist in the public sector. And in fact, one of the justices at the end said, are you actually asking for there not to be unions, or for there never to be collective bargaining in the public sector? And essentially, that is what Justice Kennedy's argument was, that because anything we do can touch on any kind of public policy, then there should not be unions. So it was exactly the argument that the Koch brothers and the DeVos family and so many of the articles running up to the case said, that these folks just don't want working people to have a voice at work, to be the check and balance to ensure that working families have a better life. And so, we will wait to see what happens. The biggest surprise was that Justice Gorsuch said nothing, and Chief Justice Roberts said very little. But the two justices that were very active and the right-wing attorneys essentially said there should be no collective bargaining and that unions should not exist in the public sector.
And so Kennedy was saying that, you said?
Kennedy was saying that. I mean, he was very aggressive and very much like, nope, they shouldn't. It was Mark. It was like we were turning back the clock 50, 60 years.
Right.
And
Right.
it was, and the best line was, someone said, well, if an employee, one person, said, I want a 5% raise, and went to their boss and said that would be okay. But if the union did that on behalf of 5 employees, 10 employees, 20 employees, the scope and scale of that would be wrong. And so it's weaponizing the First Amendment against any other right that people have. Think about how that is weaponizing it against any of the Commerce Clause, of the Contracts Clause, the 10th Amendment, to have a better life. And it was very it was surprising to me, with some, and yesterday I was stunned by it. It was surprising to me that they would have such a radicalized notion, weaponizing one amendment against all else. And in fact, last thing I'll say is the plaintiff in the case who was there wasn't even the spokesperson. Who was the spokesperson for the right wing here? No other than the governor of Illinois, who tried to get rid of unions in Illinois.
Wow. So
it was clear that this case is a vehicle for the right wing to get rid of unions. And they said it they said almost as much from the bench when Alito asked, well, what would you be proposing a law to try to enforce lobbying? And our lawyer said, that's very far afield from this case. This is not what this case is about. This is about terms and conditions of employment. Because at the end of the day, any political activities that the union does, people who don't join the union don't pay for it. But that's what they want. They want unions to not engage and have any power at the bargaining table or the ballot box on behalf of the individuals who represent.
So, to me, Randy Weingarten with his folks, AFT, as we talk about the Janus case, oral arguments on yesterday, 19 minutes before the hour. It seems to me, too, though, Randy, that this renders transparent what really Citizens United was meant to do. It
absolutely does.
Because what they said was they did this false equivalency between labor unions and corporations, right?
Yep.
But which we know is a false equivalency. But now they're revealing their true thing. Let's get rid of unions. And so then you'll have a regime where it's corporations and only their money, as if ours ever did in the first place. But it's very clear that only corporations would be the ones that would be able to influence anything.
Exactly right. In fact, and if you think about it, the New York Times in the last few days reported front page story on Monday that the Janus case is really part of a multi-pronged, multi-tiered far-right strategy to end us. And they had a story about how the Kochs, the Bradleys, and the U-Lines had spent tens of millions of dollars over the past decade supporting Republican candidates and committees. And the U-Lines spent $2.5 on the original plaintiff of the case, Ruth Rauner, who is the case's chief spokesperson, and the chief backer of the case, Liberty Justice Center, which is part of I believe the Bradley's Foundation, represented Mark Janus. So, and they've said very clearly, Mark, that the Kochs have said after they got their tax break from Trump that they were going to spend $400 million to break teacher unions. Mm. So think about this. You're right. Corporations have huge, latitude in terms of speech. An individual who didn't even know that that none of his dues would ever go to political work. He said it in an interview. He was surprised that he never, that he didn't have to be a member of the union, and he could make sure that he opted out of any of the political activities, and any of the fees going to political activities would be returned to him. He didn't know any of that stuff. But that individual, funded by the hard right, should have a way to actually end every other individual who wanted to speak as part of the union.
Right. Right.
And so their method, they're hoping to win the case, and that use the case as a way to not just say to people who are fee payers, okay, you no longer have to pay those fees, but to basically say to every member we have, they're going to now have a fight with us, with our entire membership, saying don't belong to a union.
Yeah.
And that's what they want us to focus on
Right.
in the next few months instead of the 2018 election.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So I guess, Randy, my question is, if unions cease to exist, which is ultimately where this is going, folks, quarter before the hour, Randy Weingarten, American Federation of Teachers, with us. How, if you don't have an organization anymore, Randy, how are you going to organize and raise the money to give all of your teacher union members guns for the classroom? So, hey, Randy, they didn't let you like raise your hand and ask any questions in the Supreme Court, did they? You don't get to do that, right?
No. Even though I've still kept my law license.
Okay.
And I practice from time to time, and I am a member of the Supreme Court Bar, which is, but I did get up.
Because that would have been a great question.
From about 6:30 in the morning.
That would have been a great question, Randy, if you would raise this. Well, listen, how are we going to give these people's guns, give all these people guns you want us to give them, right?
Right. And you know something, but speaking about that, just from a evidentiary point of view, the Supreme Court is never, ever, ever, ever supposed to hear new evidence. It's all supposed to be on the record. But guess what? In this case, there was no record. They rushed it to the Supreme Court, and they took it based upon a motion to dismiss. No record whatsoever. So, but on that point, the other person who didn't actually ask us what we thought about this idea was Donald Trump. Because I am sure you're going to find a teacher or two in this country, as you will find a parent or two, who will say, no, I can have a gun, let me conceal it, or a parent saying, oh, a teacher with a gun, that would be helpful. I want to make sure that everything is done to make sure my kid is safe. I am sure you'll see that and hear that. Overwhelmingly, the answer the teachers give is, are you crazy?
Right.
We do not want guns. But if you think about why for a second, and the more you think about this idea, the more you realize that this is simply the NRA either trying to change the subject or give the gun manufacturers a whole new market.
That's right.
It is because there's absolutely, just think for 1 second. You're in a New York City school, Mark. Not even a school, a suburban school. You're in a New York City school. Big hallway. You hear gunshots. You don't know what the kids are running all over. Now, there's active drills, there's all this other stuff. The kids are running all over. So the teacher, maybe you have a biometric safe and on your finger can open it, so it's not a locked gun in a place that somebody could unlock where you have forgotten where the key was, and you have a little handgun against someone who's an intruder in the school, firing an AR-15 at 90 bullets a minute, of bullets that can kill, that when they go into a body, they come out the size of a softball. And you have this going on all over the place, and kids running all over. So what's the teacher going to do?
Nothing.
With a little handgun.
True. And honestly,
who hasn't had even someone who's a trained marks person. So that's why our responsible gun owners in our union, of which we have many, are people who are former Marines, are like, what are you talking about?
Right.
This is the illusion of safety, not safety.
Right.
And then the last thing I'll say is, could you imagine the kindergarten teacher wearing a gun on her holster? What does that say to kids?
Yeah.
Really? Being safer? It makes schools armed fortresses, not sanctuaries, and they need to be sanctuaries.
Well, now that, Randy, let's be honest about it. This gun thing, everybody having guns, would not apply to AFT teachers. I mean, they don't like the AFT, and they don't like you and me. So they would have a stipulation, but it can't go to anybody in Randy Weingarten's organization. Watch, they're not gonna let that happen, and I'm sure it wouldn't go to a lot of black teachers either. So this is just a distraction and something crazy. But folks, we got to watch this Janus case. This is very important. Randy, like me and everyone else, the case is actually entitled Janus v. AFSCME. Even though AFT union is Randy represents AFT, but this affects all of it. It affects all unions. And it's meaningful it would happen via AFSCME here in the 50th year since Dr. King's martyrdom, who gave his life specifically, he gave his life for us all, but specifically in an AFSCME struggle in Memphis. And so Randy and I and everyone else will be in Memphis to commemorate that. So this is timely. It's time for us to continue to get organized and educate people about the importance of collective bargaining. We like Randy gave the best analogy. One of us running up saying, I need a 5% raise versus somebody doing it on behalf of 10 of us. Randy, before we go quickly, I heard a rumor that you're joining us in Selma this weekend. Is that true?
I am.
Wonderful. Can't wait.
I am, Mark. Can't wait.
All right, wonderful. It'd be good to see you there again, and we'll get to spend
absolutely. But I think these fights are very connected.
Mm-hmm.
A fight for justice, a fight for economic dignity, for jobs, for good wages, for everyone.
Yeah.
These are the fights that we do together, and we need to show up in each of these fights. And I'm glad, in some ways, you talked about the 50th anniversary of Dr. King's death, because he was fighting for sanitation workers.
That's right.
To not be killed in the back of their trucks.
Yeah, yeah. Dr. King gave his life for, lack of a better word, lowly sanitation worker. Most of us don't even speak to the sanitation worker. Dr. King gave his life for them. How many of us care about the sanitation workers? We do care about teachers. So if he died for sanitation workers, the least we could do is join Randy's struggle in fighting to help teachers and defend teachers from this foolishness about having to carry guns. Okay, so, and also defend all workers when it comes to this Janus case. So folks, get involved. Janus is the hashtag. Learn all about it, read all about it, share this interview. We've tweeted it, we're streaming it, share it with others. Randy, love you. I'll see you this weekend, okay?
Love you too, Mark. Thank you very much.
Okay, take care now.
Bye-bye.
All right, 866-99-SIRIUS. How do you know it's time to switch to Dish and get hands-free TV with Amazon Alexa? If you've ever settled into your couch, then realized the remote was all the way across the room, it might be time to switch to this. That's because Dish is TV's leader in voice technology. Now with Dish, you can use Amazon Alexa to control your Hopper DVR using only a voice. With Dish and Amazon Alexa, you can do things like find your favorite show, search for family movies, or find your team's game in an instant. Tell Alexa to pause, resume, and rewind live TV and recordings without having to touch remotes. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the new way to watch TV hands-free with Dish and Amazon Alexa. Requires internet-connected Hopper, Joey, or Wally, and any Alexa-enabled Amazon device. For full details, 1-844-CALL-DISH, 1-844-CALL-DISH. Dish tuned into you. We'll take a quick break and hear from some closing thoughts from Manny from Connecticut here in studio with us, our very special listener. We'll be right back. Sirius XM Progress 127 Resistance Radio. This is MIP.